What is up, everybody, and welcome back to this week's Athlete Talk. It's been just a little bit, just kind of been busy, right? We were finishing up Ironman season, triathlon season. All the multi-sport athletes are done for the year. There's no more triathlons this year. We're looking at going into the second week of October, week number 40, 2025. And where are we at? It's going to be marathon season. But before we get into that side of the talk, because things are going to shift now towards marathon, which, as you can see right over my shoulder right there, just a reminder that it's week 40, 26.2 season is upon us. But this is an interesting 3-month period here. They call it the winter arc. It's that October, November, December. And what does that mean? It's the period where, it's getting a little colder out. You're just not feeling the summer vibes anymore, especially for the endurance athletes. Maybe some of those A races, if you're a summer racer, are kind of coming to a close right now. And this is the time that you can use literally 3 months, right? That's 25% of the year we still have left, where you can make decisions, changes, and get into habits that are going to start 2026 off on a good foot. Because I am not a big proponent of these January 1st. I'll take time off. I'll get back at it after the holidays. I'm telling you right now, that's an excuse that pushes all your goals somewhere else because you just don't have the discipline and the ability to put in what needs to be put in for the next 3 months. This is a time where just instead of taking a break as this weather is getting colder, you can dedicate this time to just building healthy habits, achieving personal goals. And that doesn't have to be specifically just for endurance. That could be in your career, your family life, whatever it is. This will allow you to set up and be prepared for January, to be able to then take off in January. Now think about this. All the people that are lining up January, January, I'll start January, next year, everything revolves off of starting in January. You're going to be 3 months ahead of them. You're going to be 3 months deeper into your process for next year, 3 months of self-growth, 3 months of healthy habits from now till then. So use this time frame to assess what you want for next year, formulate a plan, and then start pushing forward with that so that you can be ahead of the curve before the turn of the year. So shifting focus, it is marathon time. We just had a marathon finisher this past weekend. I had the coached athletes of Wineglass, and then we also have Marine Corps, which, if you all know, with the government shutdown, that is a big unknown as far as what that athlete's going to do for their marathon. And then we have New York City, we have the Suffolk marathon events, the local events, and Chicago coming up on this weekend. So there's a lot of things in the mix. And I have a lot of athletes that are right in that big sweet spot right now where they're either getting ready to toe the start line, finishing up their last big, peak run, whether that's a 3-hour run or going by mileage, and they're getting ready to start the line and they're getting anxious. So that's why I'm going to put in a bunch of marathon content this weekend going into next week. I have a whole outline laid out for a marathon podcast, long form content that I'll be working on probably shortly after this. And because it's time, I'm just getting a lot of questions, a lot of nervousness. People are trying to base how their marathon performance is going to go off of this last long run, which you have to remember. If we're talking about our last long run and your build, this 16-week builds, 15-week, whatever, how many weeks we really came out of base building to get prepared for this marathon start line, you have all this fatigue. It's just been just nonstop rinse and repeat all the way up to this point. We never really prepped for that final run. We never really laid back and tapered into that long run. And that's the difference between how you feel on these last few long runs and how you're going to feel on race day, is we've built up this peak of fatigue to that point. And now we adapt sliding through taper because your fitness is not shown out there on this long run. When you have piles of fatigue on there and it's just at the end of a really big week, you have to adapt. You have to slide down the scale a little bit for a couple weeks, still stay snappy, still stay prepped with these workouts. We don't want to go in completely undercooked, and then show up on race day well prepared for that one single event. Remember, that's what I have to keep telling people is when you sign up for an A race, it is a 1-day event that we're prepping for. We're not going to repeat this event through training multiple times. Your body cannot do that. If you can do that, people would run marathons every other weekend and perform and do really well. Even the pros, they don't do that. They set specifically mapped out certain peak A-race events throughout the year that are spaced appropriately with their training load being able to be evenly dispersed on both sides of it for rest, recover, peaking, all these things so that they can have these top performances. So if you're looking for a performative goal, like we've talked before, and I want to beat a 4-hour marathon, I want to have a PR marathon, I want to Boston qualify, these are performance-based goals because we're going by metrics, numbers, and pushing ourselves. If you're just saying, hey, coach, I want to run a marathon, completely don't care what it is. I just want to get through there. I don't care if I have to run, walk the entire thing. One and done for me on my marathon. Hey, it's a completely different approach. We just get out there, we get the miles done, and we just get you to the finish line. But when you have these set performative goals, you just have to remember all of this is building for this one day event, this one time that we're going to get out there and put all of it out there. And that's why, it takes a little while to recover from this. We can't put these efforts in during training because then it just affects these other workouts. You just start, it's a spiral snowball effect of not performing well on these subsequent workouts as we go along. So the next inevitable question with the marathon is, what's my pace? What are we going to run at, coach? So I kind of know pretty much already what I think people are going to run. And when we put a pacing plan together for any long course distance, whether it's when I talk to the Ironman athletes, even the 70.3 athletes, is when I put the pacing goal together, it's a pace, your fitness, and if you put in the work and the miles and the volume that you should be able to run. But when I say should, that means we felt good that week. The taper went well. Weather was appropriate on race day. It wasn't like super hot and we haven't really been training in hot conditions. Your health was good that week. You weren't sick. Your GI stayed intact as your fueling plan was going on. You stayed on track with your fueling plan. You started out the pacing plan well. Like there's so many other factors to still get to that result. But it's kind of like when you get a pacing plan for this event, to me, I call it the scorecard for the athlete. It's kind of how you rate it, how you rank. Like I don't give overly aggressive pacing plans that I'm like, I don't know, that's kind of aggressive. I don't think you're ever going to come near that, but here you go for it. I would have to really tell that athlete that if they were like saying, no, I'm going for this goal. And I would say, I don't think it's in the cards this time, but if that's what you want to do, I mean, you are yourself out there. The ones that I give are controlling the controllables. And if I envisioned our race day almost perfect from start to finish, which they not all are, this is what you probably should be able to run right now. So that's how those pacing plans work. And this basically everyone's going to be done with their long runs by this weekend. And they're coming up with the last of it for the marathoner. So all the pacing plans will start to be laid out. We'll start putting pacing and ideas there. And pacing will look a little different from somebody who's running their first marathon, even if it's a performative goal and we're trying to shoot for a time, versus somebody who's a little bit of a veteran there that's pushed this distance before. Their body's done this distance before in a race. They kind of understand what it's going to feel like out there towards the end. They're able to push a little bit percentage-wise of that threshold pace, get a little bit closer on that RPM scale on the other side by kind of pushing it a little bit out there because they understand they've done this before. So there'll be two different things there. And a quote I wrote down for this is still why pacing is so important, especially for this distance, is even if you have all this fitness, you've done everything you can to the T, just firing on all cylinders, you're all jazzed up, a poorly executed race with a high level of fitness will still be a poor result. So you could be the fittest person, you could be set to run yourself a 3:15, a 3:30 marathon, but if you poorly execute the race, unfortunately, you won't have the result you were looking for. And it's kind of like a waste of fitness because you still have all these things you need to do a couple days before: carb loading, rest, keeping stress down, showing up into race day, having your fueling plan set, sticking to your fueling plan, nothing new on race day, making sure your shoes are broken and make sure they were the right pair of shoes, making sure that you dress appropriately for the weather, make sure that you know the course profile. And we kind of have that all laid out going into this. These are things that are going to help you execute that race well so that you can get that good result. If you just kind of wing a few things there and say, yeah, it is what it is, you're not planning properly for the race. And unfortunately, we might have a poor execution out there if you have that performative goal. These long run workouts, do we need to do, like for Ironman, do we need to do a marathon Ironman training? No, because it's just a totality of time. It's just building fitness. And then there is this diminished returns, and everyone's is a little different for how much we can train for where we are or our history of training. If we're new to sport, if we've been in this for 10 years, it's going to look different for two different people, how many times they've been at this distance before. is at some point in these long distance runs, bikes, whatever it is, these activities that we're doing, these sessions, is there's a diminished return. We want to be able to hit the bell curve up on getting the most bang for the buck, and then there's this fine line at the top where it becomes optimal. This point of whether that's 2.5 hours on the run, 2:45, 3 hours on the run, where we're going to get the best gain on our fitness when we recover, as opposed to I'm going to stay out here a little longer. I want to hit this 20-mile metric, even though it was a 3-hour run. And you start sliding down the bell curve on the other side. And what that is just diminished returns. You can do all the training you want. I could go out right now, go run 50 miles. Is that going to do anything for me? Absolutely not, because that's not what's in my plan. That's not what's next in my training plan. You could go out and do whatever you want in training, push a little extra. I'm gonna try and put a little extra miles in the bank, but at the detriment of now you will have to recover so much more because that was not part of the step process. You may now need to skip that tempo run the next day that was meant to just keep you snappy and maybe be on a little tired legs, but now your legs are too tired. You're complaining you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. Now that workout is scrapped, and now you just do nothing for 2 days because you have soreness, and then we go into the next workout kind of just unmotivated. So you can see where that slide begins on the other side. So that's when I'm saying trust the process. And that is also why this time versus distance comes up is, what do you mean? I'm not going to run 20 miles during my marathon training? Everybody's long runs will look different. Some people may top out at 18 miles, 16 miles, 21 miles. It all depends on where we fall in the plan and by time, because inevitably, if I give you workouts by distance, you just start overrunning the workouts. It's just a natural human fact of running is if I give you a 10-mile run to do and you wake up a little late or you have an appointment that now has changed a little earlier, you're going to head out the door and be like, I don't even know if I have time to get these 10 miles in. But then you just start running, and then you start running faster because you just want to get the 10 miles done. Whereas opposed if you had an hour and a half run, I need an hour and a half to get this work done at this specific intensity. And then you don't really care if it's 7.8 miles, 8.1 miles, 8.2, because guess what? Some days you're going to fall into your easy pace and it's going to go a little quicker. Or some days you're going to be like, I'm tired. I just need to throttle back a little bit, fall at the bottom of the intensity zone, and that's fine. You're still getting the same workout in and still getting the same effect from it, but you're not overrunning it and you're not ruining your next set of workouts. So that's why that time versus distance comes into play there. And we can get into a whole more talk on why it's important for that. And that 20-mile run for marathoners is really more of a mental component. It's like just checking the box that I hit 20 miles in training. How about, hey, I did two kick-ass 3-hour runs, and the second one was better than the first one. Yeah, that's what I'd rather see than you just smash yourself for 2 sets of 20 miles and probably overrun them and getting close now maybe to the effort we're looking to do on marathon day. And side note, that was another question from an athlete, which was, am I going to do my long run at marathon pace? Well, not the whole run, because if I said, hey, your marathon pace, you're probably going to average about 850, and you go out and you run an 850, 855 average for 20 miles, guess what? You just ran your marathon short of 6 miles. You might as well have just finished it that day and called it. Think of the amount of fatigue you just put into your body. It's almost a marathon effort. And look how you feel after the marathon. We usually want to take like a good week off of any running after a marathon if you're putting in a high effort because of the muscle damage, the micro tears, and everything else in your body. So you kind of just did that during your 20-mile at marathon pace. So bad idea, because if that was the case, people would go run marathons in training for their marathon, basically. So just tone it down a little bit. We do put some race pace efforts in there. We try and hit marathon pace for 2-mile sections, 3-mile segments, piecing it all together, right? All these segments got longer throughout training. And then what is race day? Race day is taking those rest periods out and putting all of your marathon pace together in a nice progressive manner from start to finish for that one-day event, for peaking for that A race. That's what we're doing. Is it's a one-day showcase of all the hard work that you put in and executing it properly out there on race day. Each session has a purpose. And then so does race day. Race day is that final showcase for you and all the hard work that you put in out there on the race course. Shifting focus now a little bit to finish this up is some off-season talks are going to happen soon. I don't want to start it too early because the marathoners are still just dialed in and focused into their races, and I want them to be involved into these talks as well. But for those multi-sport athletes And, I'm kind of lumped into that. It's kind of my off season now. I'm just in a base building period of getting myself stronger and getting back out there and figuring out what I want to do next. Is you can focus now on where you want to be next year, health and fitness wise, nutritionally wise, and even weight wise. If you're somebody who can lose a few pounds and that will help you in your endurance journeys, now's the time to do that in the off season. We really don't want to do that while we're trying to perform, because that means you need to be in a calorie deficit, which will obviously hinder your performance and you'll start to just go down the spiral slope. So I recommend this is the season where, while we're in our base building phase, our strength phase, like our just phase of getting our body back to being overly healthy after beating it up for a long period of time this year, start thinking about when you say you're starting in March a build for an Ironman. That gives you plenty of time right now, like 5 months, to really dial in your nutrition, dial in your daily fueling, and dial in your racing weight that you want to be at for next year, so that you can go into the plan in a stable calorie intake and be able to perform by not having to be in a deficit. Because I don't ever recommend, if you're planning for a performative goal in endurance, to be in a calorie deficit and try and lose weight at the same time. Will you naturally kind of lean up, burn extra calories, and may you lose some weight in that process as well? Absolutely, but it shouldn't be the focus and sole goal of that build. That's something that should be discussed now and kind of looking focused for forward. You don't want to go into the beginning of the build and be like, damn, I put on 5 or 10 pounds. I really need to shed that during our training here. Like, that's not how that's done. You need to do that beforehand so that we can perform and avoid injury by being out there and eating and fueling what we need for these workouts and for your day-to-day bodily functions. On the side note of things, coaching side, training side, just a quick update. Coaching's been super busy as far as peaking all these A races and talking to all the athletes. A lot of things on the outside. That's why I haven't been able to get my face on here a lot, is just coming up with ideas for next year, value for the athletes, a lot more opportunities for people. And I'm going to put that out over the next probably 4 to 8 weeks. And you start to see a lot of the things that are being worked on and the opportunities that you have, especially if you're not a coach athlete, you're just somebody on this platform that, tunes in every week. And then as far as my training side, where I'm at right now, still recovering. Big strength build I'm in right now. Just started a new strength program for the next 4-week period. Just finished week 1. Felt awesome in the gym, feeling like I'm getting a lot of strength back from top to bottom, and still on the bike, still able to put good power out on the bike. So my legs are feeling good there. As far as the running, 8 weeks post-op, it's still sore and tight when I try and run. Thankfully, it's not really painful. So I can get some treadmill miles done. I can get some miles done on the trail. There's a storm impending here in the Northeast, so I may just try, and since it's cool out, just try and get some walk-around miles in today just to check the box and get outside. And that's really it for me. I'm going to try and get back out there before the end of the year just to get some short run races done, but obviously not performatively wise. How I'm going to look at this, and I want to do a talk on just setbacks and how we can mentally get through all that, because I know there are some athletes going through that right now, or have gone through it, that have experience, or maybe going in it in the future, because you just never know when that it's just going to happen one day, like it was for me, just in training. Next thing you know, you're sidelined. It is what it is. Yes, I had great performance up until that. I was still on that upward spiral of PRs and having fun and crushing goals and all this stuff. But it is what it is now. We have a different shift of focus personally for myself, my training and racing, and how I'm going to look at this going forward is, am I going to be able to go out and chase a 19-minute 5K PR anytime soon? Absolutely not. But what I am going to do is get back out there when my body's ready. I'm going to set a new standard at that distance. I'm going to work my ass off to continue to build and beat that standard. And how I'm going to do it is, there's a dividing point now in my endurance journey, because I was able to put in just about 7 years of just consistent discipline and seasons, race after race, and continue without any setbacks. And now obviously there's a big hole in that journey. Is going forward for the interim is going to be just new goals, new PRs for myself after this setback. And I'm just going to work my damn ass off when my body's ready to continue working down from the point we are at right now, just like I did when I first started. And that's kind of fun, because now I get to go back through this journey again and put it out there and show people what you can do, when you have a setback, and how you can just get back out there and start getting after it. So where the future lies with racing, we don't know, but hey, I'm here, I'm helping, I'm coaching, And that's kind of a big gratefulness that I do have, is the ability to be out here helping other athletes reach their goals while I have a little more time on my hands, because the training volume is just not that high right now. So that was a big update. Just wanted to get it all out there for everybody. Week 40, 2025. Keep getting after it. Keep balancing life 1 mile at a time, and I'll catch you on the next one.